Hey everyone, Catherine Ewing here from Sacred Heart Alchemy. I just had to take a couple of deep breaths before I went live with this because I'm going to talk about something that's a difficult subject, frankly, and hard to listen to and challenging for a lot of us right now. And I'm going to share a little bit and then going to do some tapping with you. So hopefully this will be relevant for, well, hopefully this won't be so relevant for you, but if it is, I hope that it's helpful. So it's Friday afternoon and it's been a busy week with clients, and there's an issue that's been coming up a lot this week, and I know that if it's coming up in my practice with my clients or colleagues or friends that I'm speaking to, that it's coming up, across the board in many, many people's lives. And this is a subject that I have spent probably over 40 years working around, and it is the subject of sexual abuse and inappropriate sexual behavior. And my personal experience is that I've been sort of working in this arena probably since I was 18 or 19 years old, and started volunteering in a group home for girls, many of whom who had been sexually abused. And when I got my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree, I had specializations in the area of women's studies. And so I was very much involved then in this arena on this topic, as well as other, issues around women's equality and women's rights and reproductive rights and that kind of thing. I have a personal experience of having been raped in my late teens, and not having felt any support from the girls or young women who I thought were my friends. They were my friends at that time, and they chose to kind of believe the guy, literally the captain of the football team, who shall remain nameless. If anyone who is listening knows who I'm talking about, please just keep that in your, keep that to yourself. I have no interest in calling anyone out at this point, but share that really just as a way to let people know that this is an experience that I share with so many of you. The research tells us that 1 in 4 women or girls are sexually assaulted or experience some kind of inappropriate sexual contact during their lives, and that 1 in 10 men or boys experience the same. And from what I know, those numbers are just the tip of the iceberg. I think most women have been exposed to some kind of inappropriate behavior, whether it's, a grab by someone, or someone yelling things at us, or just feeling like we're kind of being raped just by somebody's eyes and how they're looking at us. It's an experience that so many of us have. I don't know the numbers for men, but I would guess that they are more than 1 in 10. And again, the reason I'm bringing this up now is, as you all know, there's so much of this being exposed right now in the media. And while it's a difficult thing, there's a part of me that's cheering and saying, yes, finally, we're speaking out in enough numbers where there's support and believability and credibility and credence across the board. And my personal spiritual belief, if you will, is that all of this that's been in the shadows, in the darkness, behind the scenes, whether people have known about it or not, it has been kept below the surface. People who have tried to speak out about it before have been shamed, not believed, made to look like they're the ones who are trying to somehow benefit from this. And so there's been an unspoken conspiracy, really, if you will, to keep this issue of power over under the surface. And so I would like to do some tapping around this whole issue because it has been coming up, as I said, in my sessions with clients and talking with other people, even just in my spiritual community or my friends. And I had a little time on a Friday afternoon, and it's been sort of sitting on my heart and my mind. And I wanted to offer something for all those out there who might be struggling with this right now. So if you've never tapped before, no worries. It's really simple. Just follow along with me. And obviously, if you have tapped before, good for you. I hope you've been tapping on these issues as they come up for you. If it's triggering discomfort, pain, painful memories in any way for you. All right, so we're going to start on the karate chop point. It doesn't matter which hand. And just tapping on the side of one hand with the other while we create a setup phrase. And so I'm just making this up as I go along. So even though all this attention to the sexual behavior, to women being touched inappropriately, sexually assaulted, and raped for so many years, is really challenging for me. It's triggering things for me. And I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. Even though I'm feeling anxious and overwhelmed and triggered by all of this attention and talk about this inappropriate sexual behavior, I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. Even though I'm really angry that this has gone on for so long, that victims and survivors haven't been believed, and that so many women and men have carried this shame and stigma around with them for so many years. I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all of my feelings. It's too much. It's even hard to believe, even for me, someone who believes that this issue has been in the shadows for so long. It can be overwhelming. Has everyone really been assaulted? Or are there people jumping on the bandwagon? I think that's the fear, that's the question that so many people are asking. How could it be? How could this be so prevalent and so widespread and have nobody come forward before? It's too much. It's overwhelming, and it's triggering me. It makes me feel sick to my stomach. It makes it hard to breathe. I feel like there's this grip around my heart. It's hard to get my breath. I feel really sick. This tightness around my heart, this inability to breathe. When I let myself think about all of the people who have been victimized in this way, how could this be? How could it have gone on for so long with so many women and boys as well and never been exposed? It's almost too much to believe. And so there's a part of me that wants to just shut it out. And when I speak for myself, when I think about my own experience, I think this happened so long ago. I should be over this by now. Why is this coming up again? I dealt with this. It has nothing to do with my life right now. I should be over this. And as much as I tell myself I should be over this, the truth is that I'm not. I'm getting triggered. I'm getting upset. I'm feeling sick. And so how could it be that something that happened so many years ago is still impacting me. It makes me sick to think about, sick for myself and sick for everyone else that this happened to. I don't want to think about it, but it's coming up now. It's everywhere, on social media, on the news, in the newspapers, and the magazines. I can't get away from it. This thing that I have tried to hide from my whole life, I just can't get away from. It's everywhere I turn, and I can't deny it any longer. It makes me sick to think about it. It makes it hard to breathe. I feel the tears coming up behind my eyes. I tried so hard to push this down, to push this away, and yet here it comes. Other people are talking about it. Other people are bringing it out. And there's a part of me that's glad for that. I want people to know this is happening. I'm proud of the women and the men who are coming forward. But it also creates a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort and a lot of anxiety for me, because I've spent so many years trying to hide this, trying to pretend it didn't happen, to forget how it felt, to forget the betrayal. I was so afraid I couldn't tell. Or maybe I was so afraid and I tried to tell. Or maybe I did tell and I wasn't believed. Or maybe I told and I ended up being the one who was punished, told I made it up or I misunderstood, or how could I say that about that person? What a bad person I was to make this up. Didn't I know how much that would ruin their lives? How about me? How about my life? How about my body? How about my integrity? How about my boundaries? How about my right to live without someone else imposing themselves on me and my body and my privacy? How could he do that to me? How could she touch me that way? What gives them the right? What made them think it was okay? How could he touch me that way? How could she do that to me? So disgusting. So much shame. So many people who carry this energy. Part of me feels relieved to know that it wasn't just me, but part of me feels sickened to know how prevalent it really is. And not just in the movies, not just among celebrities. Every place we look, every industry we look in, every social and economic class of people, abuse doesn't know any boundaries. Abuse happens everywhere. In secrecy, where there's opportunity, where there's secrecy, where there's collusion. It happens to all of us. Sometimes it happens right out in public, being grabbed, being whistled at, having crude things yelled at us. Sometimes it happens at family gatherings, sitting around in front of the Christmas tree or at dinner on Thanksgiving with that relative who always had those roaming hands or always wanted me to sit on his lap. Right there in front of everybody else. It was so uncomfortable, but nobody seemed to notice. And I was so scared. I didn't know what to say or who to tell. I feel so ashamed, like somehow it was my fault. What else would a child think? It must have been me. I must have done something wrong. Why would he single me out? There must be something wrong with me. That's how a child thinks. We don't blame the adult, the person who's supposed to know better, who's supposed to love us, who's supposed to take care of us. And so we take on this shame or this idea that there's something wrong with us, that it's something inherent with us that caused this to happen or allowed this to happen. And the shame stays with us through our whole lives. And we turn down the dial on being willing to trust. I turned down the dial on being willing to trust myself and what I'm feeling, because when I told, nobody believed me. So I must have been wrong. So I can't trust myself. And I certainly can't trust other people, because that's who did this to me. And that's who didn't believe me, or that's who punished me when I tried to tell. I was too afraid to tell. I did tell, and no one believed me. I did tell, and I got punished. And so I became quiet, just like the women who are exposing this today, just like the men who are exposing this today. They became quiet out of fear of what might be done, out of fear about what might be taken away, out of fear of what might be said about them. So many women and men in so many different arenas in life. So even though this is a really difficult thing to face, and the triggers inside of me are really uncomfortable, whether I have specific memories or not, whether it just makes me uneasy and makes me question whether something did happen to me. Whatever it is, it's uncomfortable and it feels overwhelming and like too much. I can't watch the news. I don't want to see it on social media. I don't want to have to look at the magazines and the newspapers every time I walk in and out of a store. There's a part of me that wants to pretend it never happened to me or to anyone else. And yet there's another part of me that is feeling relieved, that is finally coming out of the shadows, that there are finally enough people stepping forward that perhaps it will put a stop to this. And that gives me hope. And it opens up that tightness and that pain around my heart so that I can take a deeper breath, that I can perhaps trust that this is happening for a reason, that maybe it is really time for this to be brought up from the shadows. Perhaps we're at this period of time in this process of ascension where everything that's dark, everything that's been in the shadows, everything that has been an expression of power over is finally coming to the surface, to be revealed, and then to heal. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it doesn't trigger me, but it does give me some hope that there is some light and that there is some purpose in all of this coming to the surface now. And so I choose in this moment to let go of whatever my own feelings of shame or fear or anger or humiliation or embarrassment or responsibility are around this issue of sexual assault, molestation, and abuse. I choose to recognize that this is not the truth of who I am. It may have been a part of my story, but it is not a part of my story that I need to carry any longer. And so I'll take this opportunity as this issue is being brought to the surface, to bring it to the surface of my own awareness, to do my work around it, to tap, to journal, to pray, to meditate, to do whatever I need to do, to talk to someone, to find support, so that I can let this go from my mental and emotional and physical and spiritual bodies once and for all, because it has nothing to do with the truth of who I am as a beautiful spark of creation, as a bright light who came and took on this human form for my own spiritual growth and transformation. And so I choose to let it go, because it is not my truth and it does not serve me to carry it any longer. So I choose that in this moment, and I wish that for everyone else who has had any experience of having been victimized or subjugated or abused, to know that this is not your fault, that you're not to blame, that you're not broken beyond repair, and that you are, in fact, a beautiful light. And this is the truth of who you are. And so it is. So just taking that in as your truth now and letting that support you and hold you in these difficult times when so many things are coming to the surface. Choose to believe that they're coming to the surface to be revealed and healed for you and for everyone else who shares this experience. So just taking a moment to let that energy settle. And if you're watching this now or later, and if you still feel like perhaps there's something you want to explore, I invite you to reach out. There's no obligation. I just would like to support you, even if it's just a short conversation. Or if you want to share your comments here, please feel free. And I wish you every blessing and deep gratitude for having you in my community. Alrighty, I think that's the end. Thanks for being here. Bye now.